Hello, I'm so honored and excited to introduce to you my beloved mentor, Jyoti. I'm going to read her bio. Jyoti is an international renowned spiritual teacher. She has cultivated projects that demonstrate ways of life that honor the earth and all peoples. As the spiritual director of the Center for Sacred Studies, she has co-founded Kumari with spiritual communities both in America and Europe. Other projects she has helped to convene are the International Council of the 13 Indigenous Grandmothers and the Unity Concert. She has devoted her life to bringing unity to the planet through alliance building and collaborative relations. So thank you so much, Jyoti, for being here.
I'm very honored. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, I'm just delighted to have you and so excited to hear and share your wisdom on sacred empowerment. And so I'd love to hear, what does that word mean to you? Sacred empowerment and embodiment of empowerment.
Well, I guess very simply, I think in my world, I think when we say yes to life, then things start to happen, you know. Empowerment, sacred empowerment for me is when we've said yes that emphatically, then we start to show up for life and we get to align our soul's purpose with our walk here on earth. And that means that we do the work that it takes to bring that full authenticity of self forward. So it can really be walking the good road. And that takes a lot of work. You know, saying yes is a big thing on one level, especially when you're saying it with your heart and not just your head. Because it means then that we have to walk very differently on the earth. We no longer want to manipulate life and negotiate with life and try to direct life. We take a different position with life where we say yes to it and we are embraced and embrace life and what that means to show up in our skin. And that takes the process of people usually come to this planet and put on their skin, and then they've got a lot of karma lessons that they need to clear, or they need to complete, or they need to finish something in a way that's going to close the karma door and open their dharma, their world work in the world. And so that means many of us come wounded. We have, especially during this period of time that we're on the planet, many warriors of light are showing up right now and have said yes in the fashion that I'm describing. And then they go about the work of doing the healing of their generational wounds, because it's a very big moment of choice on the planet right now, and a time of purification and clarification is taking place. So that means that we end up in therapy. I just turned 69, so my elders would say this is my 70th year. And I don't think that ends until you're complete in Earth School and drop your skin and go on back home. So it's a constant work. It's a work that keeps us humble. It's a work that allows us to drop the false identities that we picked up through our enculturation, through our family systems, through doors that have wounded us or challenged us or overwhelmed us in some way, and it broke something or it disturbed something. It moved us out of alignment with our soul and what it came here truly to do. So it's about being willing to be humble, about being willing to show up. When we first started our community, Kayamari, what the mother said to us was, just show up. And that was such a simple instruction, but not so easily to follow, because sometimes showing up means I must meet my resistance and my mind and all the constructs of my mind that are trying to delay that alignment somehow. And then she also said to us that we should always remember that we're instruments. She said the most important work that you have to do when you come to this Earth School is that you must potentiate the herb you are in my garden. Fully potentiate that herb. Then she said, I'll decide what I'm cooking and what herbs I need to do it.
Mm.
Uh, that sounded like really simple instruction, but it's really profound, because really, if we just accept who we are and we start really doing the work of potentiating that self, then all the falseness of ourselves falls away, and that full presence of being is able to step inside our form. And when that happens, we begin to live fully in the moment. We begin to follow life and its instruction to us rather than manipulating or maneuvering it. We
Mm-hmm.
begin to allow things to happen. I remember one time when someone came to me and they said, Jyoti, I just want to find my path. What's my path? I said, well, look down. Where are your feet? And because if we really realize that each one of us is that unique, that we have that kind of delineated path in front of us, that our feet, our soul has already put us on that walk, then what we do is we begin to embrace that which creation brings to put in front of us.
Mm.
Sometimes what creation puts in front of us is not so easy. Sometimes it's overwhelming and it feels way bigger than we are, or it's scary, or it's shaking up all of our perception of what we thought life was made up of. Or it can be glorious and the golden side of our nature too. All of these things are part of the lessons, part of the ingredient of creating that strength, that empowerment that grows us, our full potential, our full authenticity.
Mm.
When each of us can do that, then we've got a different world, huh? Then we've got a totally different world that we're walking around in, and everything becomes sacred. I know that right now, I've been doing a lot of work with the Four Nations of Colombia. Most people know that one of those four nations, the Kogi. And the Kogi, a representative of the Kogi and the Wiwa, set upon a project I've been holding now for about 5 years. Is called the Fountain. And the fountain is, the way it was given to me was that it was, the mission of it was to restore an economic model that brought us back to collaboration and reciprocity in a way that began to accentuate what economy really means. It's a totally redefinition, because economy as we're seeing it right now has to do with money or dollars. But in the original days, the economy of our lives was what was looked at. So we were looking at whole systems and how we could collaborate and cooperate and see all life as sacred and be guided by the sacred and by nature herself in order to take the next step in the next day for ourselves. And these are all deep feminine principles. The Kogi are telling me that we have 8 more years before the end will fall into the beginning. And the beginning will be made up of those individuals and organizations and initiatives that are based on original principle. That means they're looking at whole system approaches to things. It means they're taking all things that are part of a system and seeing the benefit of everything. So we're not eliminating or separating things out or having to decide what's good or what's bad. We're seeing it for what it is. And we're moving in a spirit of unity and joy and love. And these are those original principles: regard, respect for life. These are all those original principles. And so, with all of that said, sacred empowerment is an essential ingredient in what we're doing today. And so these kind of dialogues you're having, I think, are essential. And having dialogues that can be interactive. So, because right now there's very short time, and that's not a doomsday moment for me. I think we are ready. I think we've been preparing ourselves for generations. I know that the prophecies have been telling us for generations that we were going to arrive at this place in time. And I believe we are ready. And now it's time to say yes. It's time to embody that full presence and to become those instruments
Hmm.
that the divine needs in order for our evolution to march forward.
Hmm. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. How how do you stay empowered within yourself and then the service that you offer others?
Well, I always start with the key to heaven is humility.
Hmm.
So I believe that I must stay humble in
Mhm.
all my activities. And in order to do that, then I have to be willing to hear everybody's different point of view and
Mhm.
to consider everything as a part of that whole system. Um, I have to keep anything triggers me, as Kubler-Ross used to say, if anything triggers you for more than 10 seconds, you have unfinished homework there.
Ah.
If something triggers me for more than 10 seconds, I go looking inside to say, oh, wow, there's another piece I need to take care of. And
Mm.
I get myself to my therapist because I have people I work with, or I take
Mm.
myself into ritual and ceremony where I
Mhm.
can really look and be honest with what I see in the mirror.
Mm.
And that's how I keep that an active process in my life. And
Mm.
it's part of what I've come to realize after all these years of growing communities internationally in many different countries with many different languages and many different shadow parts. And
Mm.
I've come to see that development of community is where an amazing mirror presents itself, so we can be honest with each other. And when we first started our community, our main intention was that we wanted to live together and come back to the earth. We wanted to, we didn't want to live in a box that was about throwaway economy anymore. Our Western modalities are set up so we throw everything away. After a
Mm.
period of time, our car gets old, we throw it away. If a relationship doesn't work, we throw it away.
Right.
It if things don't work in a very personal realm with someone in business, we throw it away. So we decided we really wanted to come back and live in a community that had longevity, that we
Mm.
built history together. And
Mhm.
we knew that if we were going to live this way with our full intention to fully accentuate ourselves, to fully activate ourselves in that realized state of being,
Mhm.
then that would mean that we had to walk where our principle was do no harm.
Mhm.
We had to be gentle with one another because we were in human form. So if we fell asleep, someone could gently say to us, hey, did you realize you're sleeping? You need to wake up. And you could say, really? Was I asleep? Excuse me. And that way we could move into those more enlightened states, but we could do it with generosity and kindness,
Mm.
instead of pointing fingers and saying, well, if you did this, then you what da, da, da. That happens a lot.
Mhm.
It hurts when we get poked that way, when those projections come our direction.
Yeah.
I think having an understanding of how the inner psyche works and how it speaks in symbols and it has its own language,
Mhm.
to know what that language is all about for myself helped me to hear what creation was trying to say to me and give me direction.
Mm.
Then once it gives direction, you shouldn't, my teachers would say, don't ask for something unless you're ready for the answer.
Right.
Because sometimes people say, I want to get it realized. And then when stuff starts breaking down and their spiritual emergence process starts to erupt, they start saying, take it away, take it away. But you just called it here. Now you want to send it away. So, before I ask a major teacher
Mm.
about something, I always sit and I reflect on it for a while. Sometimes I reflect on something for a year or two.
Mm.
But then when I go and say yes to it, and I put it there at the feet of a teacher, then
Mm.
I must be ready for the answer, whether my ego and mind are going to like it or not. I
Mm.
have to trust the process that brought me to ask the question.
Mm. Beautiful. That makes me think of grace. When I feel like a lot of what you are saying is what grace means. So I'm curious to how would you describe grace and how it works in your life?
Well, when you asked the question that you sent me some questions to ponder before we had our talk today, and you were asking about grace and ritual in the same question,
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a really good question, first of all. And for me, when I reflect upon that, grace is like divine water that runs through everything
Mm-hmm.
and gives it life and empowers it and fills it up. And ritual is helps to build a container to catch it.
Mm-hmm.
Ritual for me has to do with those old rituals that have been passed verbally down through indigenous lines, and they come from the original times, so they're full of those teachings of the original principles. And when I take that grace that comes and flows in, and I have a way of holding that through ceremony, it helps me bring clarity to the moment of what my service will be
Mm-hmm.
for the use of that grace in the moment. Um, I remember in 2006 when the grandmothers and I went to meet with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he said, prayer is very important, but now you must put prayer with action.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we're really at a moment on our historical moment, really, on the planet, where that spiritual activism is being ignited in many, many people around the planet. I'm in the middle of a new project called the Office for the Future,
Mm-hmm.
and it's bringing together in collaborative, high level dialogues of people that have been standing for the earth and working for the earth and working for goodness to awaken in all of this creation through our human forms, particularly, and have done many things over the last 30 years or more that have planted the seeds of those awakenings. And now we're here, we've sprouted, we've grown, we've come to another level of our maturity, and now we've got to say yes to each other and be humble enough to collaborate all these networks and these things that we've made in physical form in this physical reality of ours in a way that's going to support the esoteric movement that's taking place in the heavens.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Can you
and
share more about that?
Well, what I do know is in my walk, in my last for 20 years, particularly, well, really almost 30 years now, um, I've been walking with First Nation peoples, our original peoples from all over the planet in one capacity or another. And what I've come to appreciate is that they have had the endurance to go through many shifts and changes in politics, in government, in nation states, and all kinds of things that are incorporated in that history. But they kept that thread alive and held on to it with those original patterns from those original times. And so I know in myself that they have a solution for our times. They have a way of life
Mm-hmm.
that's walking on the planet in a different way and appreciates the differences of all of us in a way that can weave that in a state of unity, so that we can honor the earth as the beautiful star she is,
Right.
and the life that she provides for us is, you know.
So how do we get the word out and have that paradigm shift where more people are embracing the indigenous wisdom and we're giving the space for that? What advice would you give to people who are listening?
Well, I think it show up in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
be totally present in the moment, and she's going to give each of us the direction we need for the next moment. In that moment, I don't think we can plan an
Mm-hmm.
organic evolutionary phase of our lives. I think we can walk in a mindful, present way and catch that instruction and carry it forward.
Right.
And as we do that, then we start to see the opportunities that present themselves. For instance, I'm now in the dialogue with, as the Office of the Future, they're developing a whole media campaign that's going to be called Another World.
Mm.
And this is going to highlight the wisdom of our First Nation peoples
Mm.
By showing those principles up on billboards and all over social media that has
Oh.
to do with love the earth, care for your waters. I mean, they're simple things, uh,
Mm-hmm.
but they are not being adhered to. We're not listening to them. I mean, if you just look at what's happened now with the water protectors out in North Dakota,
Mm-hmm.
and they did that turned into a global expression of people wanting to stand up for the earth, to protect our waters, the life force of this planet.
Mm-hmm.
So because we have children and grandchildren that we're
Mm-hmm.
concerned about, and we're concerned about this moment of choice. We want, so those people that are awake like that, and they'll be the ones probably watching us talk right now,
Right.
they'll be the ones that are showing up. They're, it's a big moment for us to honor the sacredness in all of life. And our First Nation peoples, they do that. They know how to do that, and they walk this long doing that
Mm-hmm.
at great risk to their personal beings
Mm.
in most cases. Um, so yeah, it's a moment of empowerment for the earth herself. And,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they say that the earth is a being, that is waking up also. And as she wakes up, we wake up. So these first three chakras, in our systems, those are the chakras that have teachings about how to be the animal nature of ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
what that animal nature does for us so we can survive and still persist and be here.
Mm-hmm.
Now we need to make this big leap from that third chakra, which is right around the navel, up into the heart. And it's one of the biggest jumps that we make in our consciousness. And so it will take all that's happening right now on the planet to force that moment of jump, to jump
Mm-hmm.
into the heart, because really it's when we land in the heart, then we start our ascension.
Oh.
Yeah, and my grandmother Rita Blumenstein, up that she's Yupik up in Alaska, she says the way her elders taught her was that we're just learning how to be the animal selves that we are in our animal nature, and that now we're going to learn what it's like to be human in our nature.
Oh.
And that's when we invite the beingness of our nature, and it
Mm.
becomes the guiding star.
Wow. That's so
Does that
beautiful.
make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. I haven't thought about the collective where we would be at in the chakra system, but that makes sense that we're in between the solar plex and making our way collectively to the heart, which is the gateway to the higher realms. And
Absolutely. And as you look, that third chakra is all about power. Huh?
mm-hmm.
Everything around the world that's in a real turmoil right now has to do with people posturing for power.
Right.
So, and the way we've been enculturated over the last many decades is that our mind and our egos should be growing big and strong so we can direct things in a successful way.
Right.
Well, when you move your head dives into your heart, then and only then do we know our truth. This is what
Mm.
my elders taught me. Then and only then do we know our truth.
Mm.
So we're making that leap into the heart while the mind dives into the heart. So we're colliding
Mm.
in that moment.
Kind of this way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, one last question is what area, and you may have already touched base on this, but what area in the world would you like to see more sacred empowerment?
Well, I think I did touch on it. I think right now all of our networks have to come together in a collaborative, focused way in order to stand up and say yes, to stand up for the earth, to stand up for life, to stand up for and honor all of the mother elements of our planet, the earth, the fire, the air, the water.
Mm.
These are all our mother elements, and we've not been paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's time that we are really, in an individual and personal way, really taking a moment to sit down it's kind of like if you look at your checkbook, you'll see what's important in your life. You see where you spend that energy.
Yeah.
And also when you look at your schedule, the way you block out your day, you'll see where you spend your energy. So I think maybe it's time for self-reflection to look and see, where are we spending our energy, and is that truly where we want to spend it, or do we want to flip that switch so all of our resources individually and collectively can go into a focus that's about yes for the earth. And in that process, we awaken ourselves on the planet, and the Mother Earth will get to awaken without, she's not in danger.
Right.
She's been through lots of changes. She's been through, they say this is the fifth world that's coming into play. So she's been through the death of a fourth world. This is this fourth world moving us into the fifth. So she's done that. Will she do that by having to shake us off? Are we maybe the endangered species we need to get real about? I don't know. It's a question to ponder.
Right.
But she will tend to life on herself. No doubt about it. And I know that one of my places that's really a driving initiative for me, because I've been given instruction by Mother Nature that we really need to she needs her sacred sites back in the hands of the First Nation peoples. And the main reason for that was that in those original days, that guardianship was given to them along with ceremonies and rituals that feed those sacred sites and keep them activated. And they're kind of like her chakra system. So when they're open and moving and reactivated again, then she has a whole nother level of that esoteric energy, if you will, available. Her chi is then available for herself to use how she needs to make this, to bring us along on that evolutionary
that makes sense.
awareness, huh? So I'm holding my fourth Unity concert in the Black Hills to honor the Black Hills, but also to really bring a platform together along with many amazing people that are helping to construct and to drive this engine, so that we can honor sacred sites globally, and we can really listen to what the Mother Earth has said she needs, so we can get it in place for her. And that's happening. That is happening.
Oh, that's wonderful. How could someone find out more information about these offerings and more about you?
Well, you can always go to the Center for Sacred Studies website at sacredstudies.org. You can also find out more of the initiatives that I'm driving with the Fountain, and soon the Office for the Future, which we don't have much information up yet because it's still in its beginning forms. But the Fountain, css.org, is another place to go and look at for some of these things that are going on. And I just encourage everyone to realize you are so important. Your authenticity is needed in this very special moment on our planet. And we're ready to stand up and be fully counted, and to count for consciousness rather than denial, to count for unity rather than separation. There's something I wanted to kind of end with that.
Okay.
One of the community members, she caught this, Spirit gave this to her, and she felt like it was very important for the time we're sitting in. So if I could just read that to you, I want to honor Jocelyn in the way that she caught this and how she's offering it up to us. It says, on behalf of those whom I serve, I decree and declare through all dimensions of time and space that now is the time of our liberation. Now is the time of our awakening. Now is the time of our activation. Now is the time of our birthing. To those with ears to hear, now is the time of our emergence. Now is the time to gift our legacy. Now is the time to stand and be counted. Now is the time to live the new dream. Now is the time to remember ourselves. Aho, Mother, Father, God, we are ready. The time is now. As I bind myself to thy will, we bind ourselves to thy will. let
Mm.
it let it
Let it,
be.
let it be. Mm. Thank you so much.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it in my heart and prayers that it might grow itself in great abundance.
Oh, thank you.